tell, do you see the road? I'm out to my soul into the size whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If BEN10 Meets Jujutsu Kaisen. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Shinobi 360 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Location, unknown, somewhere on Earth. Time, midday. It was a calm, sunny day. The weather was cool, and the breeze that came with it brought a soothing feeling to the skin. The surroundings were filled with low but audible murmurs. Our attention is brought to a park, filled with lush green grass and flowers. Though they weren't many trees in sight, they were still a marvel to behold as they added to the overall beauty of the park. A butterfly would land on the back of the right hand of an individual who seemed to be male. His face laid flat on the ground, and his arms were outstretched, almost like he was sleeping. This individual was positioned in the middle of the grass but no one else was around him. With a stir and a mild groan, the individual gradually got to his feet, causing the butterfly to leave. Now standing with his left hand scratching his head lightly, the individual's appearance was more evident. He was a young man, no older than 16. He had combed brown hair, green eyes, slightly pale skin, and had a semi-athletic build. He wore a black shirt, blue jeans and a green jacket with white stripes on his left sleeve and the number 10 on the right, white socks, and black and white Converse-style shoes. As he brought his left hand to the bridge of his nose, on it is an object that can grab one's attention easily. A gauntlet-like band with a dark green color scheme. It contains a black rectangular button and wrist couplings, extending up to almost half of the boy's arm or forearm. In the middle was a central core that took the form of a green hourglass symbol with black outlines. This boy was none other than BEN10, and his rather strange device was known as the omnitrix, a device of alien origin that grants its wearer the ability to transform into various alien species. Ben then suddenly groaned. I thought waking up in the afterlife was meant to be pleasant. Instead it feels like I barely got enough sleep. Ben's eyes, which were once squinted, were now opened normally. Upon taking in his new surroundings, however, his eyes widened considerably. Okay, this is definitely not the afterlife. Looks more like Earth. Question is, where on Earth am I? Asked Ben to no one in particular. He then began to look around but saw no one nearby. Plus, isn't it supposed to be nighttime? Something's definitely not right. With a defeated sigh, Ben began to walk away from the middle of the park. Might as well look around. Hopefully I'm still in Bellwood. After a minute of walking, Ben came to a stop at sidewalk where he saw people walking by. At least there's people nearby. Though, I don't think I'm exactly in Kansas anymore. As he said this, he looked up to spot a few billboard signs written in Japanese kanji. Each of them either had a product on it or a female on it. Great, began Ben with a sigh. I'm halfway across the world. Though I might as well call in Gwen and Kevin. Make sure they know I'm alright. Ben then cupped the thumb and index finger of his right hand around the core of the omnitrix, and twisted it slightly, causing it to glow a light green light. Gwen, Kevin, you guys there? Asked Ben. All he got in response was static. You guys, it's me. Ben, once again, all that was heard was static. That's new. Normally one of them answers almost right away. Maybe I should try Grandpa Max. Reasoned Ben. He twisted the dial once more. Grandpa Max. Come in, Grandpa. It's me, Ben. Not only did the familiar static still remain, but a hologram in the form of a danger icon displayed on the core. I'm having trouble getting through to him too. I've got a bad feeling about this. said Ben with a tone of worry. Might as well try azimuth, hopefully he picks up this time. He twisted the dial once more. Azimuth, you there? The danger hologram still remained. No luck getting through to anyone. Might as well do this the old-fashioned way. He then brought his left hand back down to his side and put his right hand into his pocket, bringing out a relatively big green phone. He activated the phone, but what he saw put a look of shock on his face. No signal. Oh, this is definitely not good. Ben then put the phone back in his pocket. It definitely looks like Earth. But might as well be sure. Ultimatrix, activate Universal Translator. The Ultimatrix core glowed a bright green in response. Now to get some info from the locals. Ben then walked towards a man on his right who was about to cross the road. The man wore a black business suit, had a mullet cut and had slight wrinkles on his face. Excuse me sir, sorry to intrude but if I can just ask you a question. Where exactly are we? The man looked at Ben quizzically, as he was taken aback by the question. After a few seconds of silence, the man spoke up in response. That's quite simple, young man. We are in Sendai City, the capital city of Miyagi Prefecture, Japan. Answered the man with a small smile. That definitely clears up any doubt of if this is Earth, plus he's definitely speaking Japanese as well. Thought Ben. Alright, thank you very much sir. Said Ben with a bow. You are quite welcome, young man. Say, I didn't catch your name. He doesn't recognize me. That's already a bad sign. Ben-10, sir. Said Ben with a smile. It's nice to meet you, Tennyson. My name is Akihiro Takahashi. Takahashi then stretched out his right hand to shake Ben. It's nice to meet you too, Mr. Takahashi. Ben shook the man with his left hand, ensuring that the Ultimatrix was covered with his sleeve. I assume that you are a foreigner. Judging by your clothing and uncertainty about your whereabouts. Though I will say that your Japanese is quite stellar. I can't even hear the accent in it. Commented Takahashi. Thank you, Mr. Takahashi. And yes I come from a city called Bellwood somewhere in the United States. I'm actually here to visit my aunt, but I wasn't quite sure of where I was at first. Said Ben with a nervous smile, as not all of what he said was true. I see. Good to know that you have a relative here. I'm also guessing that this is your first time here. Said Takahashi with a warm smile. Yes sir. My family have been planning to have me visit her for quite some time now, but we never got around to it. At least now I know that all those extra classes learning Japanese are finally paying off. Said Ben with a slightly forced laugh. One that fortunately Takahashi didn't catch on to. Indeed. I am quite certain that you'll enjoy your stay here, Tennyson, however long it may be. The city is full of wonders and its people are just as interesting. Said Takahashi. I don't doubt that for a moment, sir. Said Ben with a light-hearted laugh. I must be on my way. Once again it was nice meeting you, Tennyson. Take care of yourself and enjoy your stay. Said Takahashi with a smile as he began to cross the road. Once on the opposite side of the road, he waved at Ben. I enjoyed it too sir, and thank you. Goodbye. Waved Ben with a smile. I'm happy the first person I met turned out to be a nice guy. Though I can't shake this strong feeling of uneasiness I'm having. Pondered Ben to himself. Only one way to find out if it's valid. Said Ben as he lightly stroked his chin with his left hand. As he turned around, he saw a woman who looked slightly older than him. She was fair in complexion, had black, shoulder-length hair, wore a thick cream long-sleeved shirt and a brown skirt reaching her knees. Beneath them were black stockings along with black shoes. She was walking towards Ben, but her attention was not placed on him. Excuse me miss. Ben called out to the young woman, causing her to stop. Sorry to disturb you but I could really use your help. You see my phone's been giving me a bit of a problem. Ben then brought out his phone from his pocket and turned it on. It's been without service ever since I got here, and I really need to check something online. Can you please help me? I promise I'll be quick. The young woman looked at Ben inquisitively, pondering his words. Okay, but don't take too long. The woman answered as she offered Ben her phone. It was the same size as his and was pink in color. Thank you very much, miss. I promise it will only take a moment, said Ben with a smile as he accepted the phone. If I'm not mistaken, the Universal Translator also allows me to read and write foreign languages, so I should be able to search up what I need, thought Ben as he opened the woman's Google app and entered the search engine. The keyboard that appeared was in Japanese kanji. Bellwood, USA, was what Ben typed with the kanji. No result was the outcome of his search. Oh no. Okay, this one to settle it. BEN10. No result was what met Ben once again. His facial expression was one of utter horror. One that he immediately masked with an uneasy smile as he handed the phone back to the girl. Thank you once again, miss, greatly appreciate it, said Ben with a bow. You're welcome. I hope you were able to find what you were looking for, asked the woman. Yeah, I was, thank you, replied Ben. All right then. Goodbye and take care of yourself, said the woman as she waved at Ben with a smile before walking past him. Thank you once again, and you too, waved Ben with a smile of his own. Once the woman was far out of sight, Ben's expression changed into one of dismay. It happened again. For the second time in my life, said Ben nervously. I'm in another universe. Location, Sendai City, Japan. Time, 3:30 p.m. Ben was seen sitting on a bench in a park far away from a set of individuals who looked his age. His head was slumped down as he looked at his knees. His expression was downcast, and his sadness was evident. First, I find out that my ultimate transformations have been alive all this time, and saw me as their unjust jailer. Then I sacrifice myself to set them free, but instead of ending up dead, I'm still alive. Only in a world so similar to my own but also so different. He then raised his head up slightly. And just like before, I can't get in contact with any of my friends and family, nor can I leave to be with them. He rested his head on the bench as he looked at the gradually dimming sky with sadness. But unlike before, I'm completely alone. You're never alone, young Benjamin, said a new voice, causing the teen's head to spring forward. His eyes widened as they fell on a man with fair skin, gray eyes, and black, wore a white lab coat over a white shirt with a brown vest and black tie, black pants, and black shoes. He also wore goggles with green lenses around his neck. For your friends are always there for you. And they are closer than you think. Professor Paradox, said Ben with a wide smile as he got up from the bench enthusiastically. I don't think I've ever been happier to see you, Professor. The feeling is mutual, Ben, as it is good to see you as well, said Paradox with a light-hearted chuckle, a wide smile plastered on his face. At least I know I'm not so down bad on my luck. Now that you're here, I can. I'm afraid that you cannot leave this place, Ben. Not anytime soon, at least, interrupted Paradox with a somber look. I don't understand. What do you mean by that? Asked a shocked Ben. When you sacrificed yourself to save the Ultimates, the Ultimatrix was intended to go through a system reboot that would not only free the Ultimates from their captivity but also free you as well. Wait, you knew about T? Asked Ben only to cut himself short. Never mind. Forget I ever asked, said Ben, causing a small smile to dawn on Paradox's face. Indeed. Moving on then. A malfunction caused by outside forces affected your Ultimatrix and caused you to appear in this world instead. I have reason to believe that the person responsible also bears the ability to walk between numerous realities, but I haven't the faintest idea who at the moment. I thought you were an expert on this stuff. questioned Ben with a tone of disappointment. I possess an in-depth understanding of the space-time continuum, which allows me to travel to any point in space and time, as well as slowing down or speeding up time as I please, correct? However, as I've said before, there are places I cannot go and things I cannot do. And as you can imagine, with those limitations, they are individuals that I cannot fully account for, at least not initially. Answered Paradox. Guess I forgot about that, my bad. Apologized Ben with a sigh. Oh, your plight is quite understandable, Ben, and I hold no ill feelings towards you for it. Now on the matter of whom sent you here, this person has made it so that if I were to extract you from this reality at the moment, it could have untold ramifications as a result. Explained Paradox. Really? Why is that? Said Ben with a worried expression. With the efforts of the being that brought you here, alongside your presence here and mine, the fabric of reality is being stretched dangerously thin. If I were to either extract you before it can even itself out now or cause any more alterations to this reality than what I'm about to do now, it could cause a rupture. One that at the very least will cause both of us to exist outside of reality itself. Explained Paradox. So I'm like the glue that's holding everything together until it can eventually stick together on its own. Theorized Ben. A rather unique choice of words, but they do bear with them the desired understanding. Excellent choice indeed, Ben. Answered Paradox with a smirk. Heh, scoffed Ben with a small smirk. Guess I'm not going to be home anytime soon. Said Ben with a now somber tone. Wait a minute. You said something about making any more alterations, what do you mean? Asked Ben, his expression now one of utmost curiosity. To better help you adjust to your new life in this reality for however long it may be, I've taken the pains to ensure that records of your existence are credible. Paradox then brought out from his coat pocket a blue ID card. It had a portrait picture of Ben in a white background. It had details such as his name, Benjamin Kirby Tennyson. Date of birth, December 27th. With slight reluctance, Ben accepted the ID card. You'll also need these. Suddenly, out of seemingly nowhere, several documents in brown envelopes manifested from thin air onto Paradox's hands. He then gave them to Ben. What are they? Asked Ben. Records such as your BRTH certificate, evidence of your guardians, evidence of your education up to this point in time, and many more. Explained Paradox. What's my cover story? Asked Ben. The same as your normal background story, only that your family is deceased and that the only surviving relative you have is a family friend. Wait, what? Ben could barely comprehend the thought of living without his friends and family existing. To then have to pretend that they're not alive felt like it was too much for him to bear. I understand how this seems, Ben, but know that this is for the best. The only other alternative is to enlist in the services of select individuals to act as your adopted family. And that would be very unfair to you. Reasoned Paradox. Ben hated to admit it, but he knew Paradox was right. Having a family pretend to be his own not only sounded highly distasteful to him, but he also knew that it could very much upset him even further. And when he considered any other alternatives, this was the best one. After a few moments of silence, Ben began to speak with a sigh. Mind telling me who this family friend is? Unfortunately that, along with the many things that exist in this reality, are things that you'll have to come to learn on your own. My time in this universe is stretched thin, and I cannot waste a second further. Answered Paradox. With a bright blue light enveloping the two of them, Ben found himself in front of a cream-colored house in the shape of a bungalow, 2 stories high and with blue roofing as well. This will serve as your temporary abode. I believe that it will serve its purpose quite well during your stay. Before I depart, I must leave you with a few parting words. One of encouragement, and one of warning. Said Paradox. What are they? Asked Ben. As I have said before, your stay in this universe is not a temporary one. Once the fabrics of reality even out to a state akin to what they were before your arrival, it should be safe to return you back home. Your friends and family are aware of your predicament and will do their best to support you during these trying times. Encouraged Paradox. Really? They know I'm okay? Asked a very hopeful Ben. His expression then changed into a soft smile and his eyes became slightly watery. Though it's going to be a while before we see each other again, I'm glad that they've always got my back. Said Ben softly. Indeed they do. Now, on the final matter, it is more of a warning, Ben. Said Paradox, his expression changed into a stern one. What is it? Asked a puzzled Ben. Beware the treachery of the two-faced spectre, warned Paradox. What? Asked a dumbfounded Ben. Unfortunately, this is where we say our goodbyes. Though it will be a while, we will surely meet again. And hopefully then, it will be to bring you home. Said Paradox with a smile as the blue light washed over him. Once it died down, Paradox was nowhere to be seen. Guess this is goodbye for now. Said Ben as he then walked towards the door of his new home. Might as well start making myself comfortable. Once he entered inside the house, he found the interior to be mostly covered with white and coupled with red floral designs. The furniture consisted of a set of chairs and a table, making up the dining table. A set of couches and armchairs placed around a flat screen TV placed on the wall. And a small but well-furbished kitchen. Not bad. Said Ben as he then placed his documents on the dining table. As he did so, he saw an oval-shaped object with the omnitrix hourglass symbol placed on the faceplate. A plumber's badge? Why did Paradox leave this here? Asked Ben as he picked up the device. Once it was in the palm of his left hand, it lit up, showing the hologram of an individual feminine in nature. The individual gasped upon seeing Ben, who in turn also looked completely shocked. Ben. Gwen. Location, Sendai City, Japan. Time, 5:30 p.m. Gwen. Said Ben in astonishment. The girl known as Gwen had fair skin, red hair tied into a ponytail that was shoulder-length and green eyes. She wore a white shirt under a red sweater, black stockings under a black miniskirt and black high heels. You're alive. Began the hologram of Gwen enthusiastically. I mean, I know Paradox said that you were alright, but it's so good to see that you're okay. Are you okay? Asked Gwen. I'm better than okay, cuz. I'm really happy to see you. Said Ben with a wide smile. I am too. We were worried sick when you didn't see either you or the watch but only the ultimates. These past few days have been pretty HRD on us, especially your parents. Said Gwen with a tone of sadness. Past few days? How long have I been gone? Questioned Ben as he then took a seat on one of the chairs. By tomorrow, it'll be a week. Answered Gwen. A week? I just got here today, shouted Ben in surprise. Now that you mention it, where exactly are you? Is it that same universe you told Kevin and I you went to last month? Asked a curious Gwen. No, I don't think Rex or Providence exist here. It's definitely somewhere new. Though I'll say, I thought Paradox filled you guys in on where I was before he got here. Said Ben with a raised eyebrow. Yes and no. He told us that you were alright, and that you were in an alternate version of Japan, but he didn't tell us anymore. Mused Gwen. Why? Asked Ben, not quite understanding what she meant. He said he needed to get to you as soon as possible, and that once he was sure that you were okay, he'd fill us in more, answered Gwen. I see. Well, he's already done a lot for me in his short stay here. He got me a house to live in, though I'm not sure if it's by myself. Whichever one, I don't mind. Plus, even though I can't go back anytime soon, I can still keep in touch with you guys. Said Ben with a tone of gratitude. Paradox really outdid himself. Said Gwen with a smile. Yeah, I owe him a lot for that. Agreed Ben with a smile of his own. Knowing him, he would probably see it as an honor to help you out like this. Said Gwen, her smile turning into a small smirk. Heh, true. Said Ben with a small laugh. Hold on, let me go upstairs to one of the rooms, it'd probably be more cozy. As Ben said this, he held the plumber's badge firmly in his right hand and then got up from the chair. He then walked out of the kitchen and climbed up a set of stairs that led to the upper floor. He saw a total of 3 brown doors, each spaced out from the other. His attention was brought to the one in the middle, as it had his name, Ben, written in Japanese kanji on a small note above the door. Unlike the other doors which had nothing of the sort. Guess this must be my room, said Ben as he then opened the middle door. He was met with a well-furbished room, sporting white walls, a single bed with a blue bedsheet, a table opposite the bed that had nothing on it, and an empty wardrobe behind it. By the left-hand side of the room was a door that most likely led to a bathroom. Kinda reminds me of home, Ben thought to himself. Alright, I'm upstairs now. I'm sure you're wondering how this new world is, said Ben as he then laid on his back with the plumber's badge still in hand. Yeah, anything unusual or anything that stands out? Asked Gwen. So far no. It's pretty similar to our Japan, though I might end up being wrong since I haven't been here up to a full day. And I haven't seen much of the city either, said Ben with a shrug. True. Hopefully if there is something weird about this place, it shouldn't be beyond anything you can't handle, said Gwen. Please, I'm Ben Tennyson. There's nothing I can't handle, said Ben with a grin. Of course there isn't, said Gwen as she rolled her eyes. Well, it's nice to see that you've still got your confidence, said Gwen with a smile. I'm just stating facts. Though now that I think about unusual stuff, before Paradox left, he did give a warning of sorts. As Ben said this, he slightly shifted his head so as to better rest it on the pillow. What did he say? Asked a curious Gwen. He said, beware the treachery of the two-faced spectre, said Ben in a tone devoid of any humor. Whoa. Talk about foreboding, Gwen said with an expression of worry. Yeah, and you should have seen his face too, it's like when he warned us about some guy named George, mused Ben. Or when he told Kevin to try and remember who his friends are before he got mutated again, added Gwen. One thing is sure, what Paradox said definitely going to happen, so I'm going to need to prepare myself so I can properly follow his advice, Ben said with conviction. Good choice. Though I doubt that's the only thing that Paradox told you about this place, reasoned Gwen with a sly smile. Well, apart from getting me a place to stay, he also fabricated a cover story for me. One that even though I understand why it has to be like that, I kinda wish there was another way. Ben's expression hardened slightly as he said this. What is it? Asked Gwen, noticing Ben's change in expression. Basically, I'm an orphan. I don't know the specifics, but judging by my living situation, it's probably a recent thing, said Ben with a sigh that indicated discomfort with his words. Oh, Ben, I'm so sorry. Is that the only cover story you could get? Said Gwen with sympathy. Well, it was either that, or have a family adopt me and pretend to be my own. Paradox didn't want to risk upsetting me further, and I'm kinda grateful that he didn't go that route, said Ben with a small smile that fell as soon as it appeared. I understand, said Gwen with a reassuring tone. Ben, even if you're not back home with us anymore, I want you to know that no matter we'll always be there for you. However long it'll be till you get back, we'll wait for you, but until then, we'll have your back, Gwen said with a sincere smile. Thanks, Gwen. I already knew that, but hearing you say it still means a lot to me. And you're right. However long I may be gone, we'll get through this together, said Ben with newfound vigor. Right, said Gwen with similar vigor. On a slightly more positive note, who's your guardian? Asked Gwen. Unfortunately, Paradox's time ran out, so he couldn't tell me. I'll have to find that along with a lot of things out on my own, answered Ben. I see. Sorry to hear that. But I know you'll be fine, encouraged Gwen. Yeah, thanks. My bet is probably a old running buddy of Paradox. Though I haven't a clue who that could be. Pondered Ben. Could be anybody. But something tells me that you'll find out soon enough. Reasoned Gwen. True. Ben said in agreement. Anyway, how's Kevin? I'm a bit embarrassed that I didn't even think about him until now. Asked Ben with eagerness. Don't be. And he's fine. Though he doesn't always admit it, he misses you a lot. Said Gwen with a light-hearted laugh. Heh, I miss him too. And I'm not surprised either. Kevin's never been the type of person to wear his emotions on his sleeve. Said Ben with a warm smile and with a mild teasing tone. Ain't that the truth? The only things I've seen him be open about how he feels about them is money and his car. Said Gwen with a playful scoff. Don't forget you. Said Ben with a smirk. Heh, I know. Gwen said with a faint blush on her cheeks. Speaking of car, he's probably working on it now, isn't he? Asked an amused Ben. Yeah. Though he did say he'd try and get in touch with you either today or tomorrow. Said Gwen smiling. Good to hear, I'd like to talk him too. Said Ben with satisfaction. On where you're staying. Where exactly are you in Japan? Asked Gwen with evident eagerness. Someplace called Sendai City, why do you ask? Answered Gwen, not quite understanding where she was going with her question. This however only caused Gwen to gasp in surprise. Ben, Sendai City isn't just someplace. It's the largest city in the Tohoku region, and the second largest city in the north of Tokyo. It's one of the most appealing cities in all of Japan, even nicknamed the City of Trees as well. You're in one of the richest cities in the world with just history alone, how can you not be excited? Said Gwen as she was very clearly invested in what she was saying. What have I done? Mused Ben to himself with a smile. Because I'm not interested in all this stuff, Gwen, you are. Reasoned Ben with a sly smile. It wouldn't kill you to develop an interest though. Said Gwen with a pout. Though it immediately changed into a smile. Nah, I'm pretty sure it will. Quipped Ben with a grin. Unfortunately, I've got some homework to do and I'm pretty sure you haven't fully settled in, so I'll leave you to it. Said Gwen as she wished that their conversation hadn't come to a close. Goodbye, Ben. It's good to hear from you again. Said Gwen with a sincere smile. You too, Gwen. And tell you what. When next we talk, I might be down for a history lesson or two about Sendai in Japan. Deal? Said Ben in an effort to raise his cousin's spirits. Gwen immediately beamed upon hearing his words. Deal? She said with a broad smile. And just as she said that, the hologram dispersed, and the plumber's badge was deactivated. Ben then placed the plumber's badge to the right side of the bed and put his hands behind his head. He looked up at the ceiling with a smile, evidently deep in thought. He was extremely grateful for being able to speak with his cousin Gwen, and with assurance that came with knowing that his loved ones were fine. Though he missed them dearly, and wished to be amongst them once more, he gradually began to accept his current predicament, and appreciated being able to even speak with them regardless. His train of thoughts would last for some minutes, before it would be interrupted by a beeping coming from the plumber's badge. Ben turned his face to his right and grabbed the plumber's badge with his right hand. Looks like someone's calling me. Wonder who? Pondered Ben as he placed his left index finger on the faceplate. This caused the badge to glow a bright green and a hologram to manifest as well. The hologram in question made Ben's mouth to open wide in shock. The hologram was that of a woman, who looked to be in her mid to late 40s, had fair skin, green eyes, and blonde, wore a red sweater, black pants, and black flats. This was Sandra Tennyson, Ben's mother. Hello? Is anyone there? I'm not sure if this thing is working right. Said a confused Sandra who was for some reason looking downwards. Mom? Said Ben in surprise. This caused the hologram of Sandra to look at him instead. Upon doing so, her eyes widened in shock. "Honey, please come over here. It's working. Someone is on the line," said Sandra. "I'm coming, darling," said a male voice. A few seconds later, the hologram of a man joined Sandra. He was closer to his 50s. He had fair skin, brown eyes, and wore a white dress shirt, brown pants, and brown shoes. This was Carl Tennyson, Ben's father. "I don't believe it. Ben," said Carl with surprise. His wife, however, had on a wide smile and her expression seemed like she could barely contain her excitement. "Mom, Dad," said Ben softly, with a smile of relief and joy. Time, 6:45 a.m. A brand new day has started. The night sky was gradually fading and the rays of the sun were slowly dimming on the landscape of the city of Sendai. Our hero, Ben Tennyson, was seen laying down on his right side as he lightly snored. He wore a black shirt and a gray short that was covered due to him wrapping himself around a blue blanket. With a slightly louder snore than before, Ben's eyes began to slowly open. They were redder than most when they wake up from sleep, indicating that perhaps he didn't sleep early enough. With a stir, Ben stretched out his arms and turned to lay on his back with a loud yawn. "This bed is really cozy. Too bad that I didn't get enough sleep since I basically spent all night talking to my parents. Not that I mind though. It was great to hear from them again," thought Ben to himself. He then slowly got out of the bed and stood on his feet, stretching his arms still in the process. Might as well get ready for today. Who knows? I might even meet my new guardian, mused Ben with a smile. He then cupped both hands around his hair, which was ruffled due to his sleeping, and even had two small spikes coming out. After straightening it out for a few seconds, it looked more in line with how it normally did, although not as neat. With a smile, Ben walked towards the bathroom, which had a blue and white interior blended together. His eyes immediately darted towards a sink with a mirror slightly above it. It had a toothbrush on the left side of the sink and toothpaste on the right. He picked up the brush, applied the paste and began to brush his teeth. Knock, knock, knock. Ben, who had just spat out the water in his mouth, looked around in confusion. Knock, knock, knock. Sounds like someone is knocking on the front door. Though I'm a bit surprised I can hear it from here, pondered Ben as he wiped off the paste on his mouth. Might as well find out who, said Ben as he placed down the brush and paste before stepping out of the bathroom. Knock knock, knock knock knock. Ben had left his room and began proceeding downstairs. Knock knock, knock knock knock. Knock knock knock. I can't tell if this person is impatient or is just fooling around, mumbled Ben in annoyance as he now stood in front of the door. Who is it? Asked Ben. Is this where Ben Tennyson lives? Asked a voice which was male in tone. Yeah. Who's asking? Said Ben, barely able to contain his surprise over the fact that this stranger knew who he was. Why don't you open the door and find out? Asked the stranger in a playful tone. This immediately caused Ben to feel uneasy as he slowly placed his right hand around the omnitrix dial. Might as well be careful, thought Ben to himself as he used his left hand to slowly open the door. Though it was partially open, Ben was able to see the stranger completely, and the man's appearance completely dumbfounded the teen. Standing in front of his door was a rather tall man, looked to be around 28 and with a skin that was somewhat pale. He had white hair that was pressed down slightly, albeit was still spiky. He wore dark sunglasses and a slightly baggy black polo shirt. He also had on white jeans with black shoes. This man is Satoru Gojo, and on his face was a rather mischievous grin. Huh? Said a confused Ben. The man's appearance had taken him aback completely, making him to open the door down wide. Who is this guy? Why does his skin look so smooth? And why is he wearing shades indoors? Who wears shades indoors? And at this time of day too? were just one of the many thoughts racing through Ben's mind. Combed brown hair. Green eyes. And a weird gauntlet on his left wrist. Mused Satoru as he placed his left index finger and thumb underneath his chin. Aha! You must be Ben 10, said Satoru with a triumphant smile as he snapped his fingers on his left hand. Ha. How do you know that again? Asked Ben, just barely regaining his composure. Well, then, it's a pleasure to meet you, Tennyson-kun. My name is Satoru Gojo, but you can call me Gojo-san. Greeted Gojo with a smirk. Okay Gojo-san. Why are you here? Asked a perplexed Ben. So many questions, Tennyson-kun. And although understandable, I must say, your manners are quite lacking. You have a guest at your front door, and you haven't even bothered to invite him in. Began Satoru playfully, before placing his left hand on his chest and forming an expression of mock hurt on his face. Though his less than subtle smirk said otherwise. Sorry about th. Began an embarrassed Ben who was interrupted as Satoru walked past in. Might as well let myself in, don't you think? Said Satoru with a smirk and with both hands in his pocket. Hey. Said Ben with annoyance as he closed the door, but Satoru simply ignored him and walked further into the house, now in front of the kitchen. He then let out a whistle in astonishment. Nanami-kun really outdid himself with this house. Bit of a shame that there's not much substance to the living room. Satoru's smirk widened upon that last sentence leaving his lips. He then walked into the kitchen and began to look around as if inspecting it. Gojo-san, I don't appreciate you blowing off my questions. Just who are you and why exactly are you here? Said Ben trying to keep his cool. That's pretty simple. I'm a close friend of your guardian. Answered Satoru. My guardian? Said Ben with slightly widened eyes. Kento Nanami. Though he was busy, so he asked me to come in his place instead. Said Satoru as he then sat on one of the chairs around the kitchen table, and put his feet up on it. Oi, Tennyson-kun, you have refreshments, right? Ben in question had sported a red tick mark on his forehead, obviously unpleased with Satoru's feet being on the table. There's sparkling water in the fridge. Would you care for some? Said Ben through lightly gritted teeth. Not as sweet as I would like, but that could work. Mused Satoru. Yes, please. Said Satoru with childlike glee. I'll be right back. Grumbled Ben as he walked away from Satoru. He now stood in front of a standing fridge. Opening the top half, he saw a large bottle with a cover on it. Just to be sure. Said Ben as he then took the bottle out of the fridge and began to shake it lightly. It began to foam as a result. Got it. Said Ben as he then closed the fridge and walked to the kitchen sink. Bringing out 2 glass cups and filling them with the sparkling water, Ben then returned the bottle and walked back to Satoru, a glass in each hand. Here you go. Said Ben as he offered the man the glass on his right hand. Thank you Tennyson-kun. Said a cheerful Satoru as he happily accepted it. Don't mention it. Said Ben with a small smile as he then sat down and sipped on his drink lightly. Satoru on the other hand, drank his with glee. Could you please put your feet down? Asked Ben politely. I probably could, but I don't want to. Said Satoru mischievously. Of course you don't. Said Ben with a defeated sigh. So, the name of my guardian is Kento Nanami. And he couldn't come here himself because of work. Said Ben. Pretty much. Said Satoru simply. Kind of wishing someone else came in his place. Thought Ben to himself with a look of disappointment on his face. But don't worry about that. You're in luck. I'm much more fun to be around with than Nanami. Even Paradox agrees. Cheered Satoru as he sipped on his drink. You know Professor Paradox? Asked Ben, leaning forward slightly with eagerness. We both do. He's the one who told us about you after all," said Satoru with a grin as he did a finger gun with his left hand to Ben, causing the boy to roll his eyes. "So that's how you know my name," theorized Ben. "And who you are. You're from an alternate universe where aliens exist. That thing on your wrist allows you to turn into all kinds of aliens. And you use your powers to be a superhero," said Satoru in a matter-of-fact tone. Yeah, to put it lightly, that's kind of accurate," said a surprised Ben. "That's good, because quite frankly, when Paradox told us about you, we saw it as the most absurd thing we've ever heard, and for so many reasons. But we still believed him nonetheless," said Satoru with amusement. "That reaction is pretty understandable, though I'm surprised you came to terms with so quickly. You must have a lot of faith in the professor," reasoned Ben. "Oh yeah, totally. Him and I go way back," said Satoru with enthusiasm. "How far back exactly?" questioned Ben. "Let's just say that Paradox is one of the only two people I see as an equal," stated Satoru simply. "Huh? What do you mean by that?" said a confused Ben. "A story for another day, Tennyson-kun," dismissed Satoru with a playful smile. "Huh? Why can't you tell me now?" said Ben in more confusion. "No spoilers, Tennyson-kun. Consider it a trust-building exercise between the two of us," Satoru said playfully. "If you say so," said Ben with a defeated sigh. "So you know about my powers and where I come from completely, right?" questioned Ben. "More or less," said Satoru. "What do you intend to do with that information?" asked Ben. "It's pretty simple," began Satoru as he finished his drink, put the now empty glass on the table, and crossed his legs. "I need you to keep being a hero who fights the bad guys," stated Satoru. "You need me to take care of bad guys?" "That I can do," said Ben with a grin. "Oh ho, Tennyson-kun. Though I believe you can, I must tell you that the bad guys in this world aren't the same as yours," reasoned Satoru. "What do you mean by that?" asked Ben. "We do not have aliens or mutants here, but rather something much more uncanny," began Satoru. "What is it?" asked Ben. "Curses," said Satoru. "Curses?" asked Ben. "Yes, Tennyson-kun. Now listen carefully, as class is now in session," said Satoru as he now brought his feet down. He then crossed his arms on the table and leaned forward slightly. He had Ben's full attention now. Curses are a race of spiritual beings manifested from cursed energy as a result of the negative emotions that flows out of humans, began Satoru. "What's cursed energy?" asked Ben. "Cursed energy is a power source that's tied to negative emotions. These curses that are born as a result of it bring harm and suffering to all of mankind," answered Satoru. "How long have they been around?" asked Ben. "No one knows. But since their lifeblood, cursed energy, is spawned from negative emotions, it's a safe assumption that they've existed for as long as humanity itself. However, more than 1,233 years ago, there was a man who lived as the unchallenged king of curses. His name was Ryaman Sukuna, and his actions have gone on to affect the modern day greatly," said Satoru. "How much?" asked Ben. A feeling in his gut told him that he may not like where this was going. For the past few years, the number of unexplained deaths and disappearances have exceeded 10 of thousands annually. And though they are measures put in place to curb these tragedies, I fear that they may not be quite enough to challenge the rapidly growing activity of the curses. At least, not as it is now." As Satoru said this, Ben's face contorted into one of utter shock, as he seemed to be struggling greatly with what Satoru had said. "They're guys who are trying to stop this though, right? Keep all these curses under control?" asked Ben, slightly regaining his composure. "Yes, and I am one of them," A jujutsu sorcerer, answered Satoru. A jujutsu sorcerer, as the name implies, specializing in using jujutsu. Jujutsu is a mystical arts that focuses on any set of spells and skills that sorcerers can use by drawing on their cursed energy, said Satoru. So your job is to protect humanity from curses? Asked Ben. More or less, Satoru simply stated. His smile changed into a neutral expression. Tennyson-kun, I understand that you have been separated from your friends and family just recently, and you don't know for how long that may be. To you, the thought of having bear a responsibility unlike any you've had to before, and so soon may come off as being. I'm in, Gojo-san, interrupted Ben with a determined glare. Paradox was right. Even in a world that's not yours, you still strive to be a hero, said Satoru, his smile now returned. Pretty much. And that's because I understand that with the power I have, it's my responsibility to use it to make the lives of other people better. I've been doing so since I was 10, so it wouldn't make sense for me to turn my back on anyone who could need my help, said Ben with a warm smile. With such an admirable resolve, you might become a jujutsu sorcerer yet, Tennyson-kun. Or at the least, work within our ranks, mused Satoru. You know what? I might just be, said Ben with a smirk. However, there is an issue on ground that must be addressed before we can go any further, Tennyson-kun, said Satoru, his expression now changing into a serious one. What is it? Asked Ben. Paradox tells me that you possess a moral code that could prove to be bothersome in the nearby future, said Satoru. You mean the fact that I don't kill? Said Ben, his expression had also changed into a serious one. Yes, stated Satoru. Well then, I'm sure he also told why it is that I don't kill, said Ben. You believe in giving people second chances. That no one is beyond redemption. You also value life greatly, whether it be human or alien, and will go to great lengths to ensure that life is preserved, no matter how difficult it may seem or how detrimental it may be, said Satoru with understanding. From what I have heard of your experiences, you are not quite familiar with encountering individuals who care so little for the things you care about the most in that regard. You have never dealt with foes who couldn't care less about preserving lives, but rather, would go to great lengths in achieving their goals that killing innocents seem more or less like an afterthought to them. I'm not saying this to undermine your past achievements and experiences, or even say that you will never deal with them. On the contrary, I know you will, especially in this world. Ben seemed like he wanted to reply but words failed him, so he remained silent. They are people whose goals and outlook stand in such stark contrast to your own that even considering showing them this level of mercy would seem foolish. I won't waste time on this topic any longer, as I'm sure you'll come to understand the meaning of all I've said soon enough. As Satoru said this, his smile returned, and he put his feet on the table once more. Plus, I have a request for you. Think of it as an interview for whether or not you'll be a jujutsu sorcerer. Ben's expression changed from a hardened one to a softened one. What would you have me do? Asked Ben. I need you to go into the city, began Satoru. Location, Sendai Station, Japan. Time, 11:30 p.m. There you'll meet a first-year jujutsu sorcerer around your age. A brown train was seen stopping on the train tracks as it had reached its destination. Coming out of it alongside the passengers was Ben in his usual attire. He seemed to be looking around for someone. He's already aware that you're coming, so he'll be in one of the public benches waiting for you. What does he look like? Asked Ben. Spiky dark blue hair, a dark long-sleeved over shirt with a high collar, matching pants, and ankle-high boots. You can't miss him, said Satoru with a chuckle. Upon looking around the station, Ben's eyes fell on a bench that had only one individual sitting on it. It was a tall, young teenage boy, around 15. He had fair skin, spiky dark blue hair and dark blue eyes. He wore a dark long-sleeved over shirt with a high collar that featured a golden button with a swirl. He also wore matching trousers and ankle-high boots. The boy, upon noticing Ben, stood up immediately and looked at him with curiosity. "What's his name?" asked Ben, causing Satoru to grin. Ben looked at the boy with a smile. "Megumi Fushiguro. Location, Miyashiro Prefectural Sujisawa 3rd High School, Japan. Time, night." It was nighttime, but there was no stars in sight, and the moon wasn't present either. The wind was slow but cool, bringing a feeling of calm to the skin. Inside a compound that was fenced with steel walls resided a large stone pillar that easily towered up to 20 feet in the air. The sound of footsteps could be heard for a few seconds before they came to a stop. In front of a small wooden cabinet was Megumi and Ben, both teens having a neutral expression on their faces. "They kept one of those cursed objects in a place like this?" asked Ben with mild disbelief. "It would seem so. It's pretty stupid too, keeping it in somewhere so poorly protected," said Megumi dryly. "I guess. Though when you look at the bright side, it just made our job easier," said Ben with an optimistic tone. "Perhaps," said Megumi as he walked forward. He then removed the hook covering the cabinet, and opened the 2 doors. "Something wrong?" asked Ben, noticing that Megumi had suddenly froze. "It's not here," said Megumi with a tone of worry. "Oh man," said Ben with similar worry. He looked above the cabinet, but saw nothing there. "Help me look around," said Megumi. "Right," obliged Ben as both he and Megumi began searching around the compound in hopes of finding what brought them to the compound. After a few minutes passed, both teens conceded defeat, as their efforts proved futile. "There's nothing here," said Megumi with a tone of annoyance. He had placed a black phone on his ear, indicating that he was calling someone. Ben stood beside him with his arms crossed. By doing so, it could be seen that Megumi was an inch taller than Ben. A/N, Fushiguro is stated to be 5 feet 9 inches, so Ben being an inch shorter means that he's 5 feet 8 inches. "Huh," said the voice of Satoru over the phone, indicating that he was the one that Megumi called. "The Stevenson screen's empty," replied Megumi. "For real? That's hilarious," said Satoru with amusement in his voice. "Maybe it took a nighttime stroll," joked Satoru. "I'll punch you," threatened Megumi. "Well, no going home until it's recovered, okay?" said Satoru playfully. He then cut the call. "I'm seriously going to punch him next time," said Megumi. "Hey, when you do, save some for me. I just met the guy today and he's already gotten on my nerves more than once," said Ben with a small frown. I'll keep you in mind," said Megumi dryly. As he put his phone back in his pocket, he turned to his back and looked at the empty cabinet. "This is going to be such a drag," began Megumi with a sigh. He then turned his head slightly to Ben. "I don't suppose your powers can help us track the cursed object faster, can they?" asked Megumi. "Nope. And from what I've come to understand about curses from Gojo, not just anyone can see them," replied Ben. "Huh? You're telling me you can't see curses?" asked Megumi. "Not really," said Ben with a shrug. "Then how do you have powers?" asked Megumi, now turning to face him completely with his hands in his pocket. "Wait, Gojo didn't tell you what my powers are?" asked a puzzled Ben. "Nope. He deliberately withheld that information from me. Said it would be more fun if I found out from you," said Megumi with a look of annoyance on his face. "Of course he did," said Ben with a sigh. "Well, since we're kinda partners at the moment, it won't hurt to tell you," said Ben as he then pushed back his left sleeve, exposing the omnitrix, and held up his left arm. "What is that? Some kind of cursed weapon?" asked Megumi with a raised eyebrow. No, it's something much more complicated. Began Ben. It's called the Ultimatrix. It's a device that allows me to transform into any sentient alien species in the universe. Aliens? The hell are you talking about? Said a doubtful Megumi. I know this sounds hard to believe, but trust me, everything I've said is true. And if you need a demonstration so that you know I'm not lying, I'd be happy to oblige. As Ben said this, he cupped his right index finger and thumb around the Ultimatrix dial. This caused the device to glow a bright green and a hologram to form. The hologram was that of a humanoid plant-like creature. What is that? Asked a surprised Megumi, who had now removed his hands from his pockets. One of my transformations. I've got a lot of them. Answered Ben with a smile. He then began to twist the dial clockwise and counterclockwise. This caused the form of the hologram to change each time. I'm going for something a little more discreet than what I normally do. And I think I know just the guy. As Ben said this, he had stopped twisting the dial. The hologram that showed now was that of a hooded individual whose face was barely visible. Noticing the confused look on Megumi's face, Ben smirked. He then brought up his right hand and slammed it down on the dial, engulfing him in a blinding green light. A green ball in a green background is seen descending downwards very quickly. The background immediately changes to a light red color, indicating that the green ball has injected itself into Ben's bloodstream. Ben is seen in a completely green background, but his overall appearance is still very visible. Ben, in mid-air, then squatted, holding onto his knees as his body began to spin due to it going through a transformation. His limbs and appendages became slightly longer, his skin became slightly more rigid and his feet took an entirely different shape. His toes changed from a set of 5 to 3. 2 toes, with the third one being similar to an extension on his ankles. He then used his hands to cover his face as a pair of wings, 4 to be exact, grew from his back. He stopped spinning and removed his hands from his face, indicating that they had changed completely. As the green light had died down, standing in the place of Ben was a creature that caused Megumi's jaw to drop out of shock. It was a humanoid, moth-like alien whose 4 wings and antennae folded into a hooded robe, giving him the appearance of has a black body with cyan patches on his arms, shoulders, legs, the back of his wings, and the back of his neck that resemble ice chunks. Each patch has thick blue outlining except for the ones on his wings, which are outlined in black. There is also a black line that runs on the edge of the outer margin on the back of each wing. On his torso are 3 plates, one resembling the chest, a shorter plate under the chest, and one resembling the stomach. On his face are blue cheeks and underjaw, a mouth that always shows bluish-white teeth, and large green eyes with dark green spots. The top of his head also sports a blue Y-shaped marking that extends over his scalp. He has 3 pointed fingers and a thumb on each hand, and 2 toes on each foot and a third toe-like extension on his ankles. And finally, on his chest was the Ultimatrix symbol. Big chill! Shouted the Necrophrygian as he unfolded his wings while taking on a powering up stance. Megumi was beyond dumbfounded. His mouth was wide open and his tongue was clicking lightly, indicating that he wanted to speak but that words failed him. What the hell is that thing? I can't even detect the slightest trace of cursed energy from him. Is that really an alien? It can't be, thought Megumi. I know that look, you're trying to make sense of how I just transformed, but you can't because you're in complete disbelief about it. Said Big Chill as he walked towards Megumi. This however, only caused the boy to walk back slightly. You don't have to be worried though, I'm not going to hurt you. Said Big Chill. How did you get those powers? Why is it that I can't sense a cursed energy from you? How is that no one's ever mentioned you before? Stammered Megumi. It's a long story but I'll try to keep it simple. Got it by accident when I was 10. I don't know. Because I'm not from around here. Replied Big Chill a bit dryly. What? Said Megumi, confused. Listen, I know I've only left you with more questions than answers, so tell you what. It's pretty late, so we both need to get some shut-eye. Tomorrow, when we continue looking for the cursed object, I'll answer your questions to the best of my abilities. I'll even hold off on asking about your powers until then, deal? Reasoned Big Chill. There would be an unusual silence between the two of them for the next few seconds. One that would eventually be broken due to a reluctant sigh from Megumi. You better not lie to me, said Megumi. Wouldn't dream of it, replied Big Chill with a grin as he then took the skies. Though word of advice, you're going to want to keep an open mind when next we meet. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of the confusion that comes with my answers. Big Chill then flew away after saying this, leaving Megumi frozen in awe over all that had just occurred. It wouldn't last though, as not long after his expression would change into a tired one. Just what did Gojo get me into? Megumi sighed. Location, Miyashiro Prefectural Sujisawa 3rd High School, Japan. Time, day. Megumi and Ben were seen walking through a field in the school compound. Megumi was wearing a long, white-sleeved shirt and black trousers with brown shoes. Ben was wearing his normal attire. Megumi walked with both hands in his pockets and Ben with both arms by his side. Suddenly, Megumi came to a stop, causing Ben to stop as well. Something wrong? Asked Ben. What's with this rugby field? Said Megumi as he looked down keenly. Ben looked at the ground with confusion, but what he saw caused him to be alarmed. He saw the upper part of what looked to be a creature that was reptilian in appearance, closely resembling a chameleon. It had short, straight, dark blonde hair on its back. And it had 2 large red eyes by its side, though the second was slightly smaller than the first. Is there a dead body buried here or something? The creature seemed to be swimming through the ground as it plunged its upper body down even further, revealing a long tail with the same hair patch on it. Even if there is. The creature then phased out of the ground, revealing more of the details on its body. For starters, the hair it had started from the back of its head down to the end of the back of its tail. It had 4 large arms and 4 toes on both feet. It also had 2 eyes on the other side of its face, bringing them to a total of 4 in number. At the sides of its mouth were 2 fat and long lumps of flesh that were dropped. Its mouth had no fangs, as they were molars. This was a cursed spirit, which upon coming out of the ground, had climbed up a steel pole and curled itself around it. I'm surprised to see one this high-leveled. That's probably a grade 2 curse. Must be that cursed object's influence. The curse then opened its mouth, revealing a dark red tongue with 3 eyes on it, making a rather unsettling groan in the process. Megumi then turned to Ben, who looked extremely agitated, that being evident as his right hand was already on his left arm. Huh? You can see the curse? I thought you said you couldn't. Said Megumi with a raised eyebrow. I thought so too. Guess I was wrong. Though I don't know how it is I'm seeing it. Said Ben a bit nervously. Began Megumi, most likely out of curiosity. He then stretched out his hand to hold Ben's right hand, surprising the latter. Don't transform. You'll bring unwanted to us. Cautioned Megumi. But that thing's right there. Even if no one else can see it, what if it hurts someone? Said Ben anxiously. It won't. It's probably here because of the cursed object. It won't attack anyone indiscriminately unless it feels threatened. And since no one else can see it, that would be pretty hard to do. The calmness in which Megumi said this did make Ben begin to reconsider, albeit it took a while before he came to a conclusion. Fine, I'll do it your way. Said Ben with a sigh. Come on. Said Megumi, motioning for Ben to follow his lead, to which the latter complied. The duo then began walking up a short flight of stairs. This is so frustrating. Its presence is too strong to pin down. It's like it's close by, but it could be far away too. Began Megumi as he brought out his phone from his pocket. On display was a small dark yellow casket slightly open with the cover below it. The cover had Japanese kanji written on white paper latched to the face. The inside of the casket had red padding, and on top of it was an object similar to a finger in size and shape wrapped in bandages. "This special grade curse is a serious pain," said Megumi with mild frustration. "At least you can get a read on it. Since it doesn't have any scent, nor can I sense it, I'm practically useless in tracking it so far," said Ben with disappointment. "Don't be so sure. We just met yesterday, but from the little I've come to know about you and your powers, you're anything but useless," said Megumi, his eyes still on his phone. "Thanks for the vote of confidence, but I can't keep my mind off how long this is taking. I just hope no one gets hurt in the process," said Ben. "Hopefully it won't come to that." Megumi then put his phone back in his pocket. "I just wonder who could have moved it, and where it is," pondered Ben. "Over here," said a new voice. The two had now reached the top of the stairs and walked over a small barricade as well. "Coach Takagi is taking on Itadori from West Middle." "Wow, what are they competing in?" said another voice. A black discus ball was seen skidding past a white circle on the center of a sand field. "Yeah," said a man triumphantly who seemed to be in his mid to late 30s/40s. He was muscular with a dark-colored buzz cut, thin eyebrows, and stubbles on his upper lip and chin. He wore a black singlet and green pants along with white sneakers. This was Coach Takagi. 14 meters. Said a teenage boy excitedly, causing Takagi to flex his muscles with pride and a smirk on his face. Japan's national record, 18m85 cm. "Wow, Takagai's still got it." "Itadori. Itadori," began the chants of a section of male students. "What are you going to do, Itadori? Itadori. Itadori. Hey, is Itadori famous or something?" asked a teenage girl with black-colored hair that extend to below her ears and styled in a bob, blue eyes, and wears glasses. Her outfit consists of a school uniform, a beige-colored vest over a white long-sleeve shirt and a diagonal strppd tie. She also wore a dark blue skirt, with gray socks, and light-colored shoes. "This is Setsuko Sasaki." Beside her was a tall teenager with short black hair with some of it that stands up in the back, thick rectangle eyebrows, and thick lips. He wore a typical school uniform, a black gakurin and white shoes. "This is Takashi Iguchi." Takashi then bent down slightly, and used his left hand to cover the side of his mouth as he began to speak in a hushed tone. "They're probably tall tales, but I heard he beat all stages of Ninja Warrior. And that he's the reincarnation of Mirko Crow Cop," said Takashi. "Itadori. Itadori. But Mirko's not even dead yet," said Satoru. Both Ben and Megumi stood behind a group of boys and girls that were laughing heartedly. They were observing the event about to unfold closely. "Still, he earned the nickname, Tiger of the West Middle. Said Takashi. "Lame," said Satoru with a tone of disappointment. "Hey, can I just throw this however I want?" said Yuji. He was of average height and seemed to have a slender build. He had relatively light brown eyes, spiky pinkish hair that styled in an undercut fashion. He wore a light-colored hooded jacket, denim pants, and bright red shoes. In his left hand was the discus ball. "Yep. I won't call any fouls, so throw however you please," said Takagi with a smile. "Sorry," he began as he placed his left index and middle finger on his forehead. "I wanted to demonstrate how serious I am by intentionally choosing something that isn't your forte. He was too self-absorbed to notice that Yuji had already taken a pitcher stance and threw the discus ball. The altitude and distance it covered caused a few students to open their mouth in surprise. As they did so, a sound of crushed metal was heard, directing the onlookers to the top corner of a soccer goalpost that was crushed, the discus ball embedded deep in it. Two boys stopped in front of it, with one holding a long white measuring tape in his right hand. Roughly 30 meters. said the boy. Takagi's eyes and mouth were wide open in shock. World record, 23m 12cm. Yeah, I win, said Yuji enthusiastically. He's more gorilla than tiger, isn't he? Mused Setsuko. That was a pitcher's throw, answered Takashi. That was amazing. I'm pretty sure he just set a world record with that throw, said Ben with a smile of bewilderment plastered on his face. Yeah, that was pretty impressive, said Megumi with a neutral expression on his face. I wonder if he's like Zenin-senpai, pondered Megumi. Zenin-senpai? Who's that? Asked Ben curiously. She's a senior of mine at Jujutsu Tech, answered Megumi. Jujutsu Tech. That's the school you go to learn jujutsu, right? Asked Ben. Yeah, it is, answered Megumi. Sounds pretty cool. Wonder if I'd fit in, said Ben with a small smile. With your kind of powers, I can't see why not, reasoned Megumi. True, but if there's anything I've learned over the years, is that I tend to cause quite a stir with people who are meeting me for the first time, said Ben with a light chuckle. There's that. Which reminds me, if you ever do get into Jujutsu Tech, watch your back at all times, said Megumi. Huh? Why's that? Asked Ben. Megumi opened his mouth, about to answer, but then Yuji ran past him, causing him to suddenly freeze up. Fushiguro, what's wrong? Asked Ben worriedly. I just sensed the presence of a cursed object from that guy, answered Megumi. He then turned towards the direction Yuji had ran towards with his left hand outstretched. Hey, you! He called out. This only caused Yuji to increase his speed. He's pretty fast, said a student. Megumi and Ben had come down the staircase to look at where Yuji had left from. Way too fast, added Ben. I heard he can run 50 meters in 3 seconds. This caused both boys' face to contort in shock. World record, 5.47s. Is he a car? More like a mini speedster. Come on, Fushiguro. If he's with a cursed object, we have to get it back, said Ben. Alright, nodded Megumi in agreement. Location, Sujisawa Hospital. Time, night. It was the inside of the hospital, more specifically the counter. It was dimly lit with a white light, but Yuji and the receptionist, a woman, were visible. Yuji has on a slightly forced smile with his eyes closed as he conversed with her. Suddenly, Yuji opened his eyes and his smile faded as looked towards an entrance at his left, his expression now one of confusion. Itadori Yuji, right? Asked a voice. Standing there was Megumi and Ben. I'm Fushiguro from Jujutsu Tech, said Megumi with a neutral expression. And I'm Ben-10, his friend. Sorry to intrude, but we'd like to talk to you in private, said Ben with a smile. The three boys were now in a more darker spot of the hospital, mostly likely the lodge where patients would wait until they were called on for appointments. I'm in mourning right now, said Yuji. Sorry, but there isn't time. The cursed object you possess is very dangerous. Hand it over to us right now, said Megumi sternly. Cursed object? Asked a confused Yuji. This, said Megumi as he brought out his phone, which still had the picture of the cursed object from before. Yuji then looked closely at the phone. Oh yeah. I found that, said Yuji in a nonchalant tone, almost as if he didn't notice the looks of worry on the faces of Megumi and Ben. I don't mind either way, but my senpai took a liking to it, said Yuji as he leaned back on a small table, his hands on top of it. What do you guys mean by dangerous? He asked. The number of unexplained deaths and missing persons within Japan exceeds 10,000 a year on average, explained Megumi as he began to scroll through numerous news articles on his phone. Most of those are the result of curses. Curses? Said Yuji in disbelief, now lying down on his right side. I know it sounds pretty outlandish, but trust me, they're real. Go on, Fushiguro. Said Ben. Large pools of negative energy form especially easily in schools, hospitals, and so on. Hardship, regret, shame. The negative emotions of mankind become the source of curses. That's why most schools secretly keep a cursed object such as a protective talisman. The object you found is one of them. If it's protecting us, shouldn't we be grateful for it? Asked Yuji in a tone similar to a student asking a teacher a question. Let me finish. Said Megumi dismissively, causing Yuji's expression to deflate slightly. Placing a cursed object of greater evil is a deadly poison that keeps other curses away. It's a bad practice that only claims to protect. Over the years, its seal weakens, and then it becomes bait to lure in and fatten up other curses. The object you found is a dangerous one, classified as a special grade. Hand it over, before people start dying. Hey, I already said I don't mind that. Began Yuji as he now stood on his feet, though he still rested his back on the table. He then put his left hand inside his hood pocket. So go tell it to my senpai. He threw the casket towards Megumi, who immediately catched it. As he removed the cover, both his face and Ben's bore expression of disbelief. It's empty. Said Ben. We were just following the taint clinging to the box. Thought Megumi as he then covered it back. Yuji began to walk towards the door, but didn't get to exit as Ben walked in front of him and placed his hand on his shoulder, stopping him. Hold on, Itadori. Where's the thing that's meant to be inside? Asked Ben. I already told you, my senpai has it. Said Yuji, slightly annoyed as he brushed Ben's hand off his shoulder. What? Said Ben in disbelief. Actually, they were talking about removing the talisman from it tonight at the school. Said Yuji. Both Ben and Megumi began to walk backwards slowly with a grave expression on their faces. Oh man, said Ben in a low tone. What? Is it that bad? Asked Yuji as he began to scratch the back of his head in confusion. It's worse than bad. Said Megumi. They're going to die. Megumi's expression hardened as he said this. Yuji's expression was one of disbelief. Ben's was too, but it was immediately replaced by a steely glare. Not if we can help it. Declared Ben. He then looked around him, wondering if there was any outside observer. Good, no one's around. Fushiguro, I'm going to turn into something that can get us there on time. Itadori, you're coming with so that you can give us directions. Ordered Ben as he then pushed back the sleeve of his left hand, revealing the ultimatrix. Got it. Nodded Megumi. Huh? What are you talking about? Asked Yuji. Look, there's a lot to explain, but I need you to promise me that you won't freak out, okay? Everything's going to be fine. Assured Ben as his right index and thumb was inches away from the ultimatrix dial. I am so confused right now. Said Yuji. Can you do that or not? Said Megumi with a tone of annoyance. Sure, if that's what you want. Said Yuji, slightly taken aback by the sudden outburst. Ben by this time had already activated the ultimatrix, and began scrolling through the holograms. Good, because now it's hero time. Said Ben boldly as he stopped at the hologram of a humanoid velociraptor-like alien. What are you doing with your watch? Asked Yuji as Ben raised his right hand up and slammed it down on the ultimatrix dial, covering him in the bright green light. The green ball and green background returns once more, with the former descending downwards very quickly. The background once again changes to a light red color, indicating that the green ball has injected itself into Ben's bloodstream. Ben is seen in a completely green background, but his overall appearance still remains very visible. The ultimatrix disappears as a green surge of electricity surges through Ben's body, causing his legs to become longer and more reptilian in nature, but with a blue and black color scheme with wheels. He also grows out a tail and covers his face with his hands. His hands and body change completely with his body becoming taller and slimmer, and also encompassing the blue and black color scheme and his hands changing from 5 human fingers to 3 black claws. Removing his hands from his face, a velociraptor-like facial structure is what is seen in place of Ben's human head, alongside a slip-on visor with a blue X covering it. As the light died down, standing in the place of Ben was a semi-armored velociraptor. He has black orbs on his feet and wears a black cone-like helmet with a blue face, green eyes, black lips, and stripes running under and in between his. Also has 5 blue stripes on his tail and wears black bodysuit and a turtleneck-like shirt with a white stripe on the center. Finally, on his chest was the omnitrix symbol. XLR8. Shouted the Kinesileran. What the hell? Said Yuji as he fell on his back, a mixture of fear and astonishment on his face. I will never get used to that. Said Megumi with his eyes and mouth wide open as well. You'll get used to it. Said XLR8 as he slid his visor down. He then whooshed towards Megumi and Yuji in the blink of an eye, and had both teens wrapped underneath his left and right arms respectively. No time to gawk. Just hang on for now. Time to pedal to the metal. XLR8 then blitzed out of the hospital. Whoa! Yuji screamed as they were immediately out of the hospital, its entrance doors even opening and closing due to the large gust of wind that passed them. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Shinobi360 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.